NFL draft. He has made his way to the combine this morning in Indianapolis. That was him arriving a while ago. There's been a lot of conversation about whether or not he is excited about being drafted number 1 by Cincinnati. He addressed that in just the last few minutes. Here's what he said.
I'm not going to not play. I'm a ball player. Whoever picks me, I'm going to go show up. Yeah, absolutely. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes from my house. And I could go home for dinner if I wanted to. Not a lot of pro athletes could get to do that. Of course I want to be the first pick. You know, that's every kid's dream. You know, I've worked really, really hard for this opportunity, and I'm blessed to be in this position, and a lot of people helped me get here. So I'm just really excited to be in this place.
Laura, you know him well. What'd you make of that?
I mean, that is Joe Burrow. Like that, he's just being himself. That's his personality. He almost seems to be laughing about the fact that people are questioning whether or not he wants to be the number 1 pick or he wants to go to the Bengals. That is how he looks at that because, like I said before, he's not used to having his words parsed the way that they have been a little bit. What I will say is of course I'm going to go there and play if I'm the number 1 pick doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement of wanting to go to the Bengals. And look, I hate to be the person that's parsing the words because this is a young man who's doing this, but what else are we supposed to do at this point? Unless it happened and I didn't hear it, has he come out and said, I want to go and play for the Bengals?
He hasn't. So, you heard right. I mean, he gets paid to speak and throw a football, and we get paid to interpret it. So I will parse his words. That's what I'm going to do. What I hear, Greeny, is a guy who now realizes, I am playing with house money. Right? He balled out his senior year. Nobody expected it. He's about to be the first-round pick. Don't fumble it. And furthermore, if you're going to be the first-round pick and go to Cincinnati anyway, you might as well go there on good terms. Ain't no point in going there, and now you got beef with management because you were throwing shade the entire draft process. So I think he's kind of wised up a little bit. And although he's not giving a ringing endorsement, he's still saying, you know what? I'm going to play. I'm going to show up.
One quick point. He's not a big rah-rah guy. I mean, we've seen that he's not a guy that over-exaggerates or over-says things. So that is very true to who he is as a person.
So here's what's happening. And Tua's doing the same thing behind the scenes. Joe Burrow saying, I want to pair with a skilled offensive play caller and the right system around me, like you saw with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. They're trying to identify that. The problem is he's messing with the wrong team. I asked several league sources about that. They said, look, the Bengals will either draft somebody else, maybe Tua or Chase Young, or they'll make him sit out for the year if he really doesn't want to play here when we draft him. And so there's some leverage that the Bengals have and are fully willing to exercise. That's why I think Burrow's sending the mixed message while still playing it safe.
Look, the Bengals were a perennial playoff team not that long ago. It must be put into the conversation.
Right. They're not a graveyard.
But Tori, I would ask you, do players in the league sort of view them differently? Is it understandable to you why a guy might look at the situation and say, you know what, all things being equal, I'd rather not go there?
Well, the Bengals, to me, just 2011, my rookie year, when A.J. Green, Andy Dalton were drafted, my first 3 years in the league, they were one of the best teams in the league. They just couldn't win in the playoffs. They were easily a contender talent-wise, and I don't see why they can't get back to that. And for his sake, being the number 1 pick, there aren't many number 1 picks who have the opportunity to go to a Super Bowl contender. You're the number 1 pick for a reason to help be the savior of a team. So it's a luxury that only Eli Manning has been able to fight his way out of. Yeah. But the reality of it is it's not even worth it. It's in his home state. He has the opportunity to change everything there, and it could be very special for him.
What did you think of what he said?
I think there's nothing stopping him from saying, I'm really excited to go play in Cincinnati if he wants to say that. Now, he's also well within his rights not to want that. I don't have a problem with it. We have this idea that, well, you're going to be the number 1 pick, you should just feel lucky for that. Were it not for the fact that he grew up 2 hours and 15 minutes away from there, it would be, to me, very easy to understand. And you talk about Eli Manning. Peyton Manning kind of did the same thing. Peyton Manning chose to go back to college in a year where the New York Jets had the first pick in the draft, and the Jets were horrifically bad at that time. And I think that he's never said that factored into his decision. Yeah. John Elway absolutely manufactured where he wound up going, threatening to go play baseball instead. There would be nothing wrong, I guess is what I'm saying, with him not wanting to go there and taking whatever steps he could to keep from going there if that's what he wants.
Here's the problem, though, Greeny. If Joe Burrow makes his bed, he just better be ready to sleep in it comfortably.
Yeah. Right.
Because remember, everything you're doing now, people will remember. And the only thing that makes people forget in the NFL is winning football games. So if Joe Burrow wants to sit here and play coy and throw any sort of subliminal shade towards the Bengals, you just have to remember, Greeny, like, people, including the fans, mind you, will remember that. he's going to end up in Cincinnati anyway. Let's just call a spade a spade. Give the ringing endorsement. Go play there. You're in your home state. I feel you, Torrey, saying he doesn't have to.
Why does he have to? I mean, we want him to say it for us. So that
I don't care.
He's being himself, right? No one else.
That's
He's being
how he
himself.
is.
Like, why do we have to? Why does he have to say, "Hey guys, I want to go to Cincinnati because I'm the best, and you guys know it. This is our team."
Because there's a game that people are accustomed to playing. We're all accustomed to seeing them play the game a certain way. Maybe he's choosing to play the game differently. What I will say, just from my experience in covering this stuff, is if he really wants out of Cincinnati, this is probably not the best way to do it, right? The best way to do this, Jeremy, is to be doing all of this stuff as quietly as possible behind the scenes, where the Bengals all of a sudden pull off. We get news all of a sudden one day Shefty's breaking in here. Oh, the Bengals have traded down, and everyone is shocked, and no one possibly saw that coming. Now, I think it actually puts this a little bit more on the map than it would be otherwise.
Yeah, if he really wanted so, he could have approached them privately. They could have tried to work something out, but I think he knows the Bengals don't want to do that unless forced. And if he found a way out, nobody would really remember much. I mean, John Elway's known more for his Super Bowls than he is for the holdout.
Of course.
But the problem is he knows he's going to hit a wall with the Bengals most likely, and the outcome is what it is.
Somewhat reluctantly, I'm being told that he also did address his hand size. That became a very. I don't mean he was reluctant about it. I'm reluctant to throw to it, but I'm going to do it. So that was one of the big parts of the discussion yesterday. His hand measured at 9 inches, which is comparatively very small for quarterbacks in the NFL. That is. It's as much of a concern as I suppose people want to make it into. We'll all hear this together for the first time. This is what he said about it this morning.
I mean, these measurements, you can take so much from them. If it's a glaring issue on film with turnovers, yeah, it's probably an issue. But, I didn't have a lot of fumbles or anything like that, so I just tried to, make a little joke out of it.
So the joke that he made out of it was what he tweeted, my small hands. Do we have the tweet? We could put it up if you have it. My small hands are doing all right. Oh, no, that's Mahomes, excuse me.
Yeah.
Burrow's tweet was considering retirement after I was informed the football will be slipping out of my tiny hands. Please keep me in your thoughts. So,
Love it.
What? There's the tweet from Burrow. And again, Mahomes, who also had small hands by quarterback standards, they were 9 1/4, so they were bigger, tweeted, my small hands are doing all right so far. I believe in you. What? I mean, what should we be making, if anything, of these hands?
I'm saying the bigger concern for NFL teams is not his hands, because they're not worried about his fumbles. They're worried about his slender build and his arm strength, which he mostly can work around because he's very talented and skilled. But those are bigger concerns than his hands. I haven't heard anybody worried about that.
Yeah, look, in talking to some NFL scouts that watched him a lot during this past year, they say that even watching him warm up, you don't see a lot of arm strength at all. And it's one of the reasons why if you watch him just throw the football sort of lackadaisically, getting ready for a game or whatever, you might say, oh, really, this guy's the #1 overall pick? Right. But when you see him in game, there's something that you just cannot even quantify. It's that game mentality that brings so much to the table.
Quantify is the operative word. Oftentimes during the NFL Combine, you go to the place where you can most easily quantify information as opposed to the place that's where you need the information. Again, I remember Tyrann Mathieu coming out and he tweeted, you can measure speed, you can measure height, you can measure weight, but you can't measure heart. The Combine, it measures all of these things, but not all of them matter.
And he's crazy accurate, and that helps. I mean, that's the #1 thing that teams see, too.
All right. He's going to be the #1 pick, regardless of how this goes, regardless of whether he wants to be in Cincinnati or not, and regardless of how big or small his hands are. As we continue on Get Up, are the Bears, speaking of quarterbacks, getting ready to sign Mitch Trubisky's replacement? And if so, who are they bringing in? We'll talk about that and more next. Get Up on ESPN.